Tutorial, 8th grade. I have category 2, and I start with my vocabulary. I look over it, and I see what I can incorporate onto my paper. I use a great big roll of white butcher paper, and I unroll it as we work. So what I did is I looked over here, and I saw that we had a lot of motion vocabulary. So I started out with net force. We talk about it. We look at the formula of it. We look at that formula chart. I cut it off so that they're not looking at that great big piece of 8 by 11 paper. I found out that over time, if you'll cut things down to a size they think is reasonable, then they're much more interested in doing the work. So they realize, okay, I only have 4 formulas I have to look at. I see net force right there, and there's the formula. So I could just kind of wrote it out for them. And then we start with a problem. So I hand wrote a problem. I took my numbers and changed the color so that they know what to look for when they're reading the question. And I always point out that, here's the word force. So if we're looking for the word force, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find the word force over here, and I'm going to look at my formula. So I just kind of help explain how you get to that formula. And there's 3 more vocabulary words that I could incorporate into that problem. So I let them work it out on butcher paper. I give them a piece of butcher paper, not this long, but a piece to work all their problems with, and I give them colored markers. It just seems like they'll just work so much better if you don't make them right with a pencil or a pen. And they get to change the colors, whatever they want. And Pat Harrison has a large classroom set of these markers. Then I just put down some problems that we have, which are gridables. There's always a question about the decimal point, which one of these to use. Now, there's not very many questions other than category 2 on gridables, so most of your formulas are worked and they have to fill in a number. So since I'm covering this, it's not something you would have to cover, so you don't have to duplicate what I have. What I would choose if I were you is look at these little scenarios they've given you in these categories. Now the kids are going to get these 2 pages, or it may just be one for you. So we're giving these to the kids. I got most of my work from these from the A-Leaf ISD. And I just went through here and I picked up some problems. I drew some pictures. I made some little Newton law signs to hang around their neck. And then we're going to reenact those Newton's laws in a real reenactment. And I just picked up some problems from here. So what I suggest you do, if you want to do this on the butcher paper, start with this A-Leaf ISD little synopsis of these categories. That's where most of my information came from. They're very complete. They give you good questions. And I'm just going to roll out some more of my butcher paper here. So I've got a gridable there, and then in their little packet that I have for them, I am giving them a gridable. This is what they're going to get right here. Right here I taped a problem. If you're going to tape problems down, cut them apart so that they don't see the answers and the question at the same time. Make them work the question first before you show them any answers. I tell kids, if you know the answer before you look at the answers, you know you're going to get it right. So here's another gridable they have to work out the math on. And one of our biggest problems on the test was potential and kinetic energy. So I wrote them so they can see those words. Then I just made me some little labels right here of where is the potential energy happening and where's the kinetic energy happening. So they can move these around as they need to. But at least they're seeing the words. So that's just something I added. Here was a really good little thing I found on the internet about motion graphs. It goes into explain to them, like right here, time is increasing to the right, but the distance isn't changing. something's moving, but it's not. We say it is at rest because there's no change in where it's moving. And then if they see a graph that's increasing, it tells them over here it's a constant speed shown by a straight line. It just kind of tells them what they need to be looking for on their graph. And there's a couple pages on that. And then we're going to move over here to Newton's laws. And I just wrote me some notes that to show the seat belt, we're going to sit in chairs with a belt around us to show inertia. And I made these little Newton's laws. They have the definitions on the back. And I know you don't have a lot of time to do all this like I do. But you can take and just write some things down on your butcher paper if you want. And I have the paper. Then they have to know waves. So I put the 3 things or 4 things they have to know about waves. And then we are into another problem that we're working that I hand wrote. And I make sure that when they're using a formula, which you probably won't have to do any of this since I'm the one that has the motion things. But I wrote the word here and I wrote force here and what are they looking for? Work again. So here's a problem that's a trick problem. I found this one in that A-Leaf ISD. This can't be solved. It's not workable. It's good for them to realize that it won't work. And then the last thing I did is they have to know about the energy transfer. So I found some pictures because believe it or not, even in 8th grade, these kids have got to have pictures to understand it. And I just went to Google Images and I found all these. So I found chemical energy, mechanical energy, nuclear energy, sound energy, radiant, and thermal. So they just need pictures, and there's electrical. They just have to have these pictures to remember these things by. So that's basically how we tutor. I give them their own piece of paper. And as I roll this out, I don't have to rewrite every day what the lesson's going to be. I have all the work in front of me. And it will take us an hour to work out this piece of butcher paper. So if you want some butcher paper, give me a holler so you can start working on it. And you'll have your lesson done. You'll do it for 2 weeks to this different kids. And we'll get their butcher paper given to them so they can do it their work on their scratch paper. We're going to call it their scratch paper. But I just roll this up every day, and then I start unrolling it the next day, and it takes an hour to complete all of this.